All right. Welcome everyone to the 27th episode of UBI.
Yup. Episode number 27.
27. That's old.
Hmm.
Um that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, and it's been
It
a
is
lot
a
of fun.
lot.
We've had a lot of fun. And we hope to have more fun on this show. Right now it's just you've got me and Lai. We're gonna just kind of
No
talk
guest
about
today.
no guests, just gonna talk about what's going on in our minds and kind of what we think about kind of either what's going on in the world or what's going on just in our personal lives. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, how
It's
how have
not
you been this week?
me. How
Yeah.
have I been? I've been good, man. Like I've been, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, there have been a lot of people talking about mental health,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'd actually always taken mental health seriously, or even though I didn't grow up in an environment that encouraged taking that seriously. I didn't grow up, that wasn't a thing. Like
Right.
people just, people were still in the 1900s where if you don't see it, it doesn't exist. Like just toughen up. Like
Mm-hmm.
you know, it, it's almost like they equate mental health to how you will feel as a baby when somebody took your cookie. You know,
Stop crying.
yeah,
UBI.
right. Like
Basically
yeah, exactly.
UBI. That was all the
Exactly.
therapy you got. That's the
That's all
most
the
therapy
therapy.
you got was UBI.
Yeah, all the therapy you got was UBI. Like I never heard anyone talk about going to a psychologist
Mm-hmm.
growing up. Like none.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't even exist.
Right.
So, but anyway, but of course, as I've grown older, I never like and as I've grown older, I've become more aware of the necessity to take care of not just your physical well-being, but more important, I feel like your mental well-being is even more important. And quite frankly, like over the last couple of months, maybe I would say 2 or 3 months, I've been in the happiest state I've ever been as an adult.
No, snap. That's a big statement.
It is a
What?
big statement to the point where this week I started thinking like, okay, like I'm so happy. Like this is weird. Like I'm just happy. I mean, you gotta know me. Like it's not like I'm a sad person normally. Like or
Mm-hmm.
like, but I'm kind of like even keel.
Right.
Like I don't get too high, too low. But I'm just happy, like in a constant state of happiness to the point where I'm so happy that I would tell some people that I'm so happy. Like I'm very happy.
Just
And
like talking to random strangers,
I know,
pulling their mask down. Love it.
do people feel this way? Like is this normal?
Dancing in the street. That's
I
cool.
know, right? And to the point where this week I started thinking that I was faking it.
You got skeptical of your own
Yeah,
happiness.
I got skeptical of my own happiness.
Is he really that happy?
I got exactly that was exactly what it was because I'm like, no, no, this is not real. This is not normal. Like
That's hilarious.
this can't be real.
That's funny.
So so that and of course, so I started walking a little bit back, like, okay, what has changed? And so one is just that I've made a more conscious effort to be happy, to decide to be happy, and to just not let things that will bog
Hmm.
me down. Even though I feel like I've done a pretty good job not letting that happen
Hmm.
normally, like but I still generally had things like from my past or whatever that I feel like I still let get to me.
Hmm.
So making a conscious effort to do that. So that's one. Two, it's just reframing things that happen as well, just in my mind. Like, it's like I'm getting to this point where nothing really matters, man. Like, like nothing really matters. Like, there's this question that I'm like, okay, and this is, and I do talk to people as well. Like, and when I say talk to people, like people tend to, I talk to people where, we bounce ideas off of each other, that kind of stuff. People thinking about changing this in their lives and all of that stuff. And one of the questions that I feel like I've started asking is, okay, whatever you're doing now, would you, if especially relating to say professional stuff, right? If making money or paying your bills weren't an issue, would you do it?
Hmm.
Would you continue to do it? If the answer to that is no, then you got to start really actively thinking about changing something. Because, and I'm not in the camp of, oh, you don't take anything seriously, or let me put it this way, not to downplay the necessity for you to make a living.
Right.
So that you should take seriously. But if you would rather not do that,
Hmm.
then you got to start actively thinking about, okay, we need to start to make a change here. Then the question now becomes, what does that mean? You know, do you have to downsize? Do get into a place where you're comfortable to be happy about what you do majority of your time? So, but anyway,
Hmm.
yeah. So that is one piece. The other piece is I've just been so removed from a lot of bullshit that goes on in the media.
Hmm.
I don't follow politics as much.
Right.
I don't follow news as much. Like I'm not inundated with the constant things that enrage me.
Hmm.
So it's easy for me to just see a headline now and just And for me, I'm a political junkie, right? So I can't do it. So I can't not follow current affairs, but I'm at a place now where I can just ignore it. So yeah.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
so yeah. So what about you? That's a long rambling.
But that's all good stuff though. There's a lot there. Um, and these are just realizations you came to on your own, or have you been seeing like a therapist?
So these were really realizations I came to on my own. Although I actually talked to therapists in the past, like
Hmm.
yeah. So, but not recently, like not in immediate recently, but yeah, I talked to a therapist in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I've actually never spoken to a therapist. I'm trying to think if there was an example. Definitely not as an adult. Um, and but I've had realizations. I've gone through like personal growth and read books or just had different perspectives on things that have definitely had me in much better mindsets, kind of like what you're talking about, where you kind of just let stuff go, um, and no longer let it bog you down. And it really is kind of a choice. Obviously people deal with varying degrees of trauma and things that they dealt with growing up or even now. So I'm not trying to minimize what people are going through and just tell people get over it. But you know there is a point in being an adult and kind of growing where you do have to let stuff go. um but yeah, no, I've thought about it, like, should I go to a therapist? I don't know. It's one of those things where I think I feel okay, but I'm sure. Like, but do I don't know. I mean, I
So
do and I don't.
so I feel like there's this misconception about when to see a therapist as being when shit has hit the
When
fan.
shit hits the fan, it's like, that's you should go before so shit doesn't hit the fan. I'm probably holding in a lot and it's gonna
Like
explode. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like you should think of seeing a therapist as the way that you would think of going out to exercise, like
Right,
run.
right,
Maybe you run every day or weekly or
right.
whatever. Yeah, I feel like that's how you should think of it. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, like for me, I had to get to a point where that is no longer stigmatized. Like when I saw one, it's funny. Like I actually didn't talk to anyone about it.
Hmm.
Like before I went to see one. Like I was just like, you know what? I think I need to talk to someone, and yeah, and that was it. And at some point, I stopped going, and I would just have. I felt like I just had a lot of stuff just inside me that would, you know, that would just I don't know if enrage is the word, but that was just bogging me down. That's probably the
Hmm.
better way to describe it. But yeah, I just went to see one just out of nowhere. So I actually saw two different ones, not because the first person wasn't good enough or anything, but
Hmm.
I just thought it would be interesting to see to see someone else and you just get different perspectives. So for me, it was even more like it became like, okay, let me get a different, almost like you getting a second opinion.
Right.
Um, and yeah, so and so that's true thing. I mean, that's true. One thing that I can't also, when people talk about seeing a therapist, I think it's totally fine. Um, for some people, maybe I should put it this way: for some people, their therapist doesn't necessarily have to be a professional therapist, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? It could be like, there are people in people's lives that are very good at helping others see perspectives and
Hmm.
like, because obviously there's a difference between when you have a clinical um, issue where you need professional help from sometimes when you when sometimes I mean and other times some people what you may just need is perspective, somebody to just help you see perspective, somebody that you probably respect their
Hmm.
opinion
Right,
and that can help you get centered somewhat.
right.
um
Yeah.
so that could be a mentor, a teacher, a friend, whatever, and that person can still serve that role. Of course, like I said, it becomes a point where if you do indeed need like professional help, that wouldn't substitute for that. But therapy can be can be thought of as loosely, kind of like the way where when you talk about your physical health, you go see your doctor, your annual physical, but then that doesn't mean that you don't have a personal trainer that can help you reach some goals or something like that in the short run, or a workout partner that
Hmm.
yeah. So that's kind of like, you know, I think that's probably how to think of it as well.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting that you make the analogy with exercise. I've definitely heard that before, and it makes a lot of sense to me that you would want to see a therapist and work on your mental health the same way you work on your physical health. And I'm trying to think now like what that means for my like reluctance to go because I feel like with when it comes to working out physically, like I'm kind of resistant to working out with other people. Like I like to do things.
You have deep-seated issues, man.
I don't know what it is, but no, but the thing is, I do it though. You know, like I
Got it.
work out. I'm consistent about it. I'm not a fan of like um, going to classes. I'm not a fan of having a personal trainer or working out with
Mhm.
other people. I just prefer that to be my alone time. And maybe I've kind of used that as therapy, like or something like running to me and lifting weights, like that stuff is therapeutic.
That
But
is
I'm
actually, I totally agree. I don't mean to like make fun of.
no, no, no. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
also ridiculous.
no,
I'm probably
I totally agree. Like it could be a form of therapy because one of the things that I started doing also recently is to go on ridiculously long walks.
hmm.
So I didn't used to like use ebooks. Like I just preferred to just read, literally. from
Hmm.
paper.
Right, right,
paper,
right. Yeah.
paper books. It's partly before two reasons. Partly because I kind of enjoy that experience and whatnot. But most of the books that I also read are mostly self-help books, like nonfiction type books,
Right.
autobiography. I mean, I read a little bit of autobiography, but mostly, you know, I like reading a lot about psychology, behavioral economics, things like that. And I take a ton of notes, and it's just easier for me
Hmm.
to write in the books, or um, to write in like my notes. Like I
Right.
take a ton of like you would think I'm studying for an exam.
Study for an exam.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it doesn't actually mean that I would necessarily go back and study them,
Hmm.
but it's kind of like a way when I'm writing. I mean, when I'm reading and reading some of this stuff, and I'm writing stuff from there, I'm relating them to my life, right, or to things that I say, like, oh, it's almost is this live interactive experience that I have with reading. If
Right.
that makes
You're just
sense.
trying to engage with it more.
Exactly. I'm totally engaged with it. Like I don't
Yeah.
really just like, the way you just read something and you're not absorbing, or. So but
Hmm.
anyway, um I'm going somewhere with that. But but
So,
no. So yeah, but anyway, so what I started doing now is yeah, I remember now. I'm getting back on track. So I started going on ridiculously long walks. I'm talking about 2 3 hour walks a day.
mm.
And I will
At
have
what time of day is this?
this dark just in the afternoon.
Just tell work be aight.
Yeah, just just in the afternoon and just go for long walks, and and that's also because I'll walk in the morning,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
go on long walks, and then walk in the evening. Like
Hmm.
so, and two things that I would do is I will either listen to music, I will listen to an ebook,
Hmm.
or I will listen to nothing. So so when I'm listening to the ebooks, I mean I'm actively listening,
Hmm.
and it is a different experience from taking notes and whatnot. Eh, and I'm allowing my mind to be a lot more active, if you will. So, but anyway, long story short, I think a combination of just taking those walks that has
Hmm.
allowed me to just think more and be free. There is some freedom in taking walks, man. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I've newly. You want to know how long I've walked? Last month, Google. I activated this thing in Google where it will tell you that do you want your location or whatever to be tracked. I
Hmm.
I walked 109 miles last month.
Damn. Yeah, you were walking all over the place. But
I
that's hilarious. That's great though.
That is ridiculous. So I mean, I knew I
That is a
walked a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, that's a
I
lot.
But I'm like, there was no way I would have guessed that I walked that much. But of course,
That's a lot. That's
that is a
like
lot.
yeah, so I'm doing this running program where I'm running about now I'm running about 25 miles a week. But I'm running and I'm like preparing for this 10-mile run. So for me, it's about 100 miles a month. But like
Mm,
I'm training for something. Like you're just walking, and
I'm
you're
gonna walk.
walking. So I'm running, so I'm getting through it faster. Whereas like you're walking, the amount of time that's a long time
That is,
to walk 109 miles versus run,
y-
109 miles or whatever. So
yeah, it is a
I
long
can
time.
I can respect that amount of time that
It,
it's just off to yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm there with my own thoughts. So that's a long time to be thinking about things,
Hmm.
to be digesting things, whether from the music that I'm listening to. I mean, I'm making up beats in my head. Whenever sometimes
Hmm.
like I have this, yeah, like I feel like I have this musical talent anyway. So like I'm making up beats in my head. I'm like critiquing music, like, oh, I will have this beat do this or do that. That's how if I'm listening to music and I engage intimately with music that way, I will be doing
Hmm.
that with the music. With the book as well, like as I'm listening,
Hmm.
it is the same. And most of it, and it is interesting, like with yeah, like I mean, with the book, it's just it's really the first time that I'm using ebooks, and I remember um I decided to try them because you had mentioned to me some time ago that you do ebooks.
Hmm. Or I did one.
Oh,
I did the Obama book, and
yeah, you told me about the Obama
yeah.
book.
Hmm.
So I thought that you just mostly
I'm sorry. I mostly do. I'm sorry. I'm confusing ebooks and audiobooks.
audiobooks. No.
You listen.
Audiobook is
Okay, yeah.
audiobook is what I mean.
Okay.
Audiobook is what I mean.
Yeah, I just did that with Obama, but when I read books, I read them on my phone. Like
Got
I
it,
do
got it.
the electronic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant audiobooks. Yeah, I meant audiobooks this while.
Got you,
So
got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
you figure that out, right? Like, no,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I
I'm
thought
not
you were
flipping.
saying.
I'm not
You're
flipping
not
through
like
my phone and
you just
walking.
walk
No,
into a river.
I mean saying ebooks this while. No, audiobooks is what I mean. Like I subscribe to Audible.
Got
That,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, so I think that may have contributed to my immense happiness as well.
Mm. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a good reflective, meditative time to just think. You know what I've noticed about myself? The reason why I like to, run by myself a lot. Um, I love driving by myself. I love any traveling. Whether if I'm driving or if I'm on a plane or on a train, and I realize it's just because those moments you're forced to sit down and just think. There's nothing else. That's like when I'm in my happiest, when I'm thinking and I let my mind go wild, or not even wild, or just let it do whatever it wants to do. I could listen to music or I could listen to nothing. I love, even if I have someone with me when I'm driving in the car, like I love long car rides, but I think my favorite thing to do is just be by myself and I kind of just think. Like there's no pressure to do anything else other than just for me to be with myself by myself. Like I've always loved that. Um, and I think, you doing that 2 to 3 hour walk, I mean, that's like bliss. It's
Yeah,
just like that's your time to just be off on your own.
yeah. I think that has been my therapy as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
engaging with his audiobooks and music and just with my own mind. And the thing is, luckily for me, I'm not one of those people that is afraid of what their minds, um, where their minds carry them, right? Like I feel like there are some people, at least I've read that there are people that they can't they can't be by themselves because they're just afraid of like what they start thinking about.
Yeah, which I don't
Oh,
get either because my favorite person to hang out with is myself. Like when I'm just thinking. And you sometimes you run into people and you wonder if they can ever just be quiet because they just constantly are talking or just moving around and they just seem like they constantly need stimulation. And I'm like, I wonder if that person can just sit down, shut up, and not talk to anyone and just be. Uh, I don't know, but people are all different, but I'm definitely not like that.
yeah, people are very different. I mean, who knows sometimes? I mean, you know, if you are someone that's listening to this and you're afraid of um, your thoughts, you should definitely see a therapist. Um,
Hmm.
you should seek you should seek help in some way or form. Because, or you shouldn't be afraid. Your thoughts are just that. They're just thoughts.
And
There's a
you're
real
allowed to have them,
Yeah, you're allowed to think horrible things,
Hmm.
and it doesn't make you a horrible person. Like if somebody did something terrible to you, for example, and you thought you're thinking to do horrible things to those people, it's okay. Don't follow through with them. I mean, it's not but it's okay to think about it and I say, you know what, and move on from it. If you
Hmm.
think if you have thoughts that are tormenting you, talk to someone about it. Like it's not a big deal. Like you shouldn't be afraid of yourself.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. And I do, even though I say the other stuff is therapeutic, walking alone and all that stuff. I mean, I do think it's important to get another opinion, a therapist involved, or some type of uh, kind of objective third party too. I think can be helpful. And I know I'm not practicing what I'm preaching right now, but I do understand the value of having someone to talk to, and not it's not just your thoughts all the time, because you can convince yourself that, oh, everything's great, you can convince yourself all types of stuff, but sometimes you need that sounding board.
Yeah.
I have people in my life who I consider sounding boards. I mean, even this podcast is a sounding board to me, but like, um, you know, Geneva's a great sounding board. I just have people in my life that I trust, and that help me see things in other perspectives. But the thing about a therapist that's great is that it's confidential, and I think you can be in a space where you can almost just dump all the weird stuff that you even hide from the closest people to you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yep.
like, because we don't, like, no one is just in, I mean, some people are more open books than others, but we've all have stuff that's like deep inside of us, and whatever, and uh things in our past that we don't like to talk about or whatever. So I think that's where a therapist probably comes into play, um with
Yeah, man.
with that
So,
stuff.
so what else is going on with you?
um what else is going on? Nothing much. I'm just working. The news has uh been interesting this week over in America with all these police shootings, and
It's like it's back.
yeah,
Even
it's
though it
like
never
it's
went
like
away.
police. Yeah, it's like police shooting season. I know it's like it never really went away, but for some reason, as the weather gets nicer, it's
Yep.
like it's police shooting season. It's like riot season now, and um, it's wild. We'll see what happens with the George Floyd verdict. It's funny that the prosecution went on for a long time, and the defense, I feel like their case was like a day or something, because they don't have, it's like, what do you have to say? It's kind of like, what's your defense? So if he doesn't get convicted of something, this country's going to burn down, as it should, because that is just insane. Um, but I've been trying to. I mean, I see that stuff. I try not to focus on it too much. But you had the Dante Wright thing. You had the Adam Toledo shooting. I saw both of those within the couple of days of each other,
You
and I
saw
was
the
just.
actual,
I saw
you
the
saw the
actual videos. Yeah,
man.
yeah,
So yeah,
and
I
it.
stopped watching those videos.
I know, and I totally respect it if you do stop watching them, and would even recommend people to stop watching them. I just can't. I don't know. I don't know why I do it. I just do it,
Yeah,
and for me, I think part of it is I try to put on my legal mind a little bit and just see, like, what will the defense be, and I kind of focus on it, kind of like a case at this point. I'm somewhat emotionally removed from it when I look at it. I try to look at it coldly and analytically. That's kind of the armor I put on when I watch these videos. Um, it's probably not good for my mental health, but maybe being a lawyer is not good for your mental health, and I still
so
do it. So.
so that was what I was going. So that was what I was going to say. Like, I have always said over the years that I'm going to stop, and then because it's steeped in the news, and you hear, and then at some point I will crack and be like, okay, how bad will it be? And it feels worse and worse than I even thought. Like, I don't know. At least for me, it feels like every time I watch these videos, they just seem to be getting worse and worse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Those two
So
videos were very bad. Like, to see
yeah,
them back to back, it's like, what is going on? These.
like these are human beings. So, and the idea that you're going to be seeing those kinds of things
Hmm.
a couple of times a year, and
Right.
that is not doing anything to you, I don't believe
Hmm.
that. Like, that is damaging this society, the psyche of this society in a way that we can't quantify right now. Like, we have people that have PTSD. Like, you can't just be watching human beings get gunned down like that,
Hmm.
and that doesn't have an effect on you. You
Right.
may you may think you're wearing a lawyer's hat or a doctor's hat, whatever
Right.
hat you think you're wearing. Like,
Right.
I don't think you know you I don't think that is not taking a piece off of your soul. Whatever. I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But the thing is, like, I think being a lawyer is kind of insane. I remember just one of the first classes I took in law school, just learning about some of the facts in these crim law cases, and you just have to be like, I don't know, you just have to kind of like toughen up or something and just deal with the facts. But like it was some case about um, some guy left his child in a car, in like a heated car, and the child died, and it was completely an accident. I just remember like just I was 22 years old and I'm reading these facts. I'm like, that's horrible. Like I can't get over how horrible I feel for that entire situation. And then now I'm supposed to, discuss mens rea or whatever. It's just like I'm still traumatized by what I just read. And that's kind of a different fact pattern, but it's still the same type of thing. It's like I'm traumatized. So you get this. So it's probably still not good for you, but you do become a little bit more of a robot. But it's not just me; it's all these people watching it. It's affecting people, and it's
That's
affecting
what I'm saying. I'm not
their
even talking
psyche.
about
Yeah,
you. I'm not
yeah.
talking about you. I'm just talking about society. Like, people, we are all watching all these videos, and this is damaging every one of us. I
And it's
mean,
and it's crazy because you'll watch that video, and then you'll go and then you'll see a meme, and then you'll see another murder video, but then you'll see a TikTok video. It's like it's almost like it's just part of your social media experience.
yeah,
It's like, oh,
it
you'll see a
is.
murder. Oh, you'll see a funny meme. Oh, you'll see a YouTube video. Oh, here's an advertisement for sneakers. There's another murder video. And I don't know what this stuff is doing to us. It will be interesting. I don't think we'll fully understand until much later. I don't even know if we'll be here, but they will definitely study what this stuff does to us. And I think we'll have a better understanding, unfortunately, later on. But
What we know that videos are not doing, though, is that I don't think, maybe I may be wrong. Maybe there is a scientific way to measure this. I don't think they are. The fact that there are more videos out there is reducing these shootings.
police violence,
Yes,
yeah, no,
I don't. Yeah, I don't
it's
think so.
just it's just like here, you guys can see it now, but it's still going to keep happening. But here now, everyone else can be traumatized and actually look at it. But I think the
I,
problem,
sorry to cut you off. You know what
yeah,
upset? You know what upset me more than I mean, I wouldn't call it upset. I just remember we had this symposium or something in law school back in the day, and we were talking about this, and I brought that particular you know question up, and Coughlin, the professor that we
hmm
all love, she dismissed it. She dismissed like my concerns, and I love Coughlin.
right, yeah. So she just missed your concern that body
Yeah,
cameras wouldn't do anything.
yeah, she dismissed
Hmm.
it. She didn't. She couldn't fathom that would. And now I kind of get it, because that was her perspective.
Right.
That was a perspective, because she's looking at it from. I'm looking at it from, like, you don't understand how rotten the society is to black people. People don't give a fuck about black lives, and I think that is what she was underestimating. And
Hmm.
I don't think it's about Coughlin. Maybe a lot of black folks you also even underestimate
Hmm.
that.
Right.
Like, I have always felt like, no, like, you don't get it. The society that looks at, you know a police officer shoot someone, and we can't ask questions about it,
Hmm.
and you start going around digging for, did they smoke weed or something like that, like,
Right.
you're already looking for ways to excuse stuff. That society is done.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's I'd always felt like, I'd always felt, I don't know if fatalistic or is the word for it. It felt existential to me at the time, and she just dismissed it that day, and I was just like, okay, like, I'm just a law student, just espousing. I guess maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. No,
Right.
from just my anecdotal observations.
Right.
We
Yeah.
just seen them and we are getting traumatized and re-traumatized by these videos. I mean,
Yeah.
they may actually be getting worse. Like, it may actually be the worst things that's happening. Like, it may be having a
It
worse.
definitely doesn't seem better for
No, it
sure.
doesn't
I
seem
mean,
better. So,
like the
so
videos I've seen, it's definitely not better. It's like these are really, really bad. And what I see when I see the videos, even taking like race out of it, it's just the cops, they're so quick to shoot, and they're just they seem like wildly unprepared or scared. It's this irrational fear that they have that they're not equipped to deal with when they see something that they see as a threat, which is, in these cases, a young black male, a young Latino male, um, and they're just it's just they're just terrified, and the first thing they do when they feel they're threatened is shoot. um
and that's what I'm saying. Like, this goes deeper than
eh,
videos. The
right,
question is, we're not addressing why these people are scared in the first place.
right, yeah.
So, because if I'm a if another police officer wouldn't do that, or if an ordinary citizen, like if you as an ordinary citizen, even if say you had a gun, you get into an altercation with, not even an altercation, like this interaction with someone, and you wouldn't do that, and you have police officers doing this, like, that is deep seated. Like, eh, we are not getting into the root cause of why these folks are scared of these folks, and
Hmm.
they have this blanket immunity that they just wrapped around, where, you know the first thing that we start talking about is they have a tough job. Like, I don't know. At this point, do they have a tough job? Like, the job, it is risk free now.
Right. If you can just shoot anyone
If
who's
you get
maybe a
exactly,
threat, it's not that tough. If I
yeah,
could go to work and someone threatens me and I get to just shoot that opposing counsel
yeah,
and walk off scotch free and go home and play video
yeah.
games.
Like, is it really, is it that tough? Like, I mean, it's now basically risk free. Like, because if we're telling them that,
You
if
can
you
literally
you know
kill someone.
yeah, like, any second, any iota of stuff, it's okay for them to shoot if they just feel like, what kind of standard is that?
Yeah. No,
And
it's
and we,
it's
and we and we can ask questions about it. Like, we can ask, like, no, they can be challenged. Otherwise, you're anti-cop. Like, to me, if a police officer shoots an unarmed person, the burden, it should be a high burden for the
hmm
officer to not be punished for it. Like, it should really be a situation. Like, I don't care whether you thought whatever.
hmm
The burden should be like, okay, we get why this happened.
hmm
After the fact, you found out that you thought he was armed. You thought he was armed shouldn't be enough for you to shoot someone.
hmm
It should be concrete.
Right.
But that's not the environment that we operate in. Like, we just operate in, like, oh, I thought he was holding his cell. I mean, holding his cell phone. He's doing this. He ran. Like, I thought he had his hand by his waistband. What the fuck? He lunged. Like, and now you know that they lie. These officers
hmm
lie all the time. Like, they use that all the time. Like, they lunge. Sometimes you will see them brutal. You see videos of these officers brutalizing someone. They start talking, stop resisting, because they know that is,
hmm
that's the go-to.
Right. That's the key phrase, and
That's
that's
the key
the
phrase.
yep. Yeah. No, it's I don't know. We have to definitely rethink how we how police officers should be functioning in society. What is their role? Because as of right now, it seems like it just doesn't fit. It's too um, it's too aggressive. It's as if they're going to war all the time and they're ready to go to war. And I think for a lot of them, there are plenty of police officers who never use their gun because for a lot of them, they're not in these situations. Most of them aren't in these situations often. We act like, oh, they have a really, really tough, dangerous job. They're most of them, most of the time, are not uh, in armed confrontations with people. The problem is when they are, then they're kind of allowed to just do whatever because they could just say they're scared. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so obviously, the woman who shot Dante Wright apparently was on the force for 20 some years or something. She trained other officers. And when she was actually put in a position where she would felt frightened, she just shot the guy with her gun, even though she thought it was a taser. Like, it's clear they're not equipped to deal with these high pressure, high stakes situations. You have all these things going on in their head, all these fears. I remember the officer who shot Philando Castile, who murdered Philando Castile, who, by the way, was acquitted that following year. And if you remember that video, he was terrified. As soon as Philando
Yeah,
Castile
it was
said,
shaking.
he was literally terrified because he thought his life was, and I do believe he was terrified and thought his life was going to end. But the question is, why though? How come Philando Castile can't calmly say, "Officer, just so you know, I do have a firearm on me"? That's all he said. And he's like, "Well, don't take it out." And then within seconds, he's screaming and crying, and he shot him. And it was wild. But clearly, we have to figure out what are the roles of cops, in
I,
society,
I think one of
if anything.
I think um, one of the very first things I think is that cops have too much power and too many things that they can stop people for. I just think we have to like reduce the unnecessary interactions. For instance,
Hmm.
they said some guy. I mean, you shouldn't be stopped. You shouldn't get shot if the reason why a cop stopped you was because something was blocking your window. Like, to me, that should just be out of it. No, they should stop
Hmm.
stopping. They should stop pulling people over for nonsensical shit.
Right.
Like, it should be illegal. That should be
Right.
illegal. Like, stop pulling
Right.
people over for having something hanging off their mirror. Like, oh, that is unsafe. I've been pulled over for bullshit like that before. I'm
Yeah,
like, do
that
you
was
really?
Dante Wright. He was pulled
Yeah,
over because he had air fresheners on his.
I have been pulled over for air freshener before.
You have?
Yes, I have been pulled over for
Jeez.
air freshener before.
I have one on my
Like,
window right now. I gotta turn that thing. I gotta take that thing off. I seriously thought about that when I read the story. I looked up. I was in the car parked, and I looked up. I'm like, oh shit, do I need to get rid of that thing?
like, I haven't pulled over for air freshener before. Like, so
I didn't even put it on there. I like got my car washed, and they put it in there or some shit. Like,
but
so
but the reason they pull you over for bullshit like that, they said it's unsafe. That's bullshit. It's not unsafe. It's not
I've been
obstructing anything.
I've driven several states with that in my window and been perfectly fine.
It is pretextual. They just use it to stop you, to just
Exactly.
fuck with you, to just mess around with you, and just say, hey, to see maybe if you have something, or
Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever.
I
No,
mean,
so
it's insane.
stuff like that, like, traffic stops or
Yeah,
stuff.
traffic stops. I'm like, do you guys need guns? I don't know. They're trying to like. I I understand like if they find like Pablo Escobar or something on I-95 and he might be trying to get away. They treat every traffic stop like they found a drug lord, and this guy is willing to do anything to
So
get out
so
of it.
I feel like that. I mean, it's a good thing that you brought that up, because I feel like that is part of a larger societal discussion as well. Because these cops also know that guns are everywhere. It's
Right.
so easy to get guns.
Yep.
It's one thing if you are, I don't know, in the UK, where it is so hard to get guns. If a cop pulls you over, the likelihood of you having a gun as the passenger, or I mean,
Hmm.
as a, as
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 a
as
driver.
as a driver, is really low. Maybe you could, but like, the likelihood is so ridiculously low that
Yeah.
it's easier for you to see cops that just walk around with sticks or whatever they're
Hmm.
walking
Right.
around with.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So So, but in the US, it's not like that at all. It is not
Yeah.
like that in the US. We have
Yeah.
guns are everywhere. So everyone is just paranoid. Like you
Yeah.
go into, I mean, we may have talked about this before. I go into a hall that has, people in it, and I'm thinking, okay, if somebody comes in here, I'm gonna escape here. If somebody comes in, like, what the fuck is that? Like, what? Like,
Hmm. Yeah. No, everyone's paranoid. I do think it is a larger societal issue with all these guns. I hate guns. I really, really do. Um, like with a passion. And but yeah, everyone's terrified of everyone because everyone thinks everyone might have guns at any point in time, which they do, and they
dude,
could kill you and shoot you. And so I mean, I do get it if you're pulling someone over on the side of the road, you really don't know. And I
you
understand
really
that
don't know.
that's a
So
scary situation to be in, but like we should stop uh like you said, we should lower the number of times where they're in that situation and they're
exactly. So
interacting with citizens.
yeah, so you keep the police safe. I mean, if they really don't have to, like, because if you are the police officer, you're thinking, okay, I'm stopping someone for having hair freshener out of, whatever, and I could end up dead.
Right.
Like
Yep.
that shouldn't be, it's one thing if you say looking for a drug lord that you're like, okay,
Right.
I think this is a drug lord.
Right.
You kind of know what you're going into. If the person ends up not being a drug lord is one thing, but at least you kind of know what, you kind of you have a way to be mentally prepared for that. But you should stop having people being pulled over for bullshit reasons. Stop having police pulling people over for nonsensical reasons. Like, let people be. Like, if
Right.
you have somebody intoxicated in the street, let them be. Like, stop pulling people over and writing bullshit tickets. I mean, I know it's a way for municipalities to raise money as well, but that
Right.
it just has a way of, like, it just has a way of destroying people's. I mean, do you know how people's lives get destroyed, like, just by one police, one cop
Hmm.
pulling them, like, an officer pulling them over? You could have someone. Like, can you imagine somebody that's going to a job, minimum
Hmm.
wage job? You know, you're trying to get your hours. If you miss a couple of hours, you're gonna be back on rent. You have a police officer pull you over for some bullshit reason, write you a $300 ticket.
Hmm.
You're making $15 an hour. How many hours of you're
Yeah.
talking about 20 hours of work is
Right.
what you're gonna pay for that? I mean, you are perpetually fucked.
Right. That was what happened with Philando Castile. They pulled him over 49 times, I think it was, before his final pulled over
I
stop.
mean, and
49 times
I feel
for
like I feel
bullshit, for constant bullshit. The same stuff you're talking about.
if
Tail
you if
lights or whatever.
yeah, like at some point, something should be flagging in the system that says, okay, don't pull this guy over again. Like, just let him be. You've pulled him over how many times? Obviously,
Hmm.
he hasn't done anything wrong.
Yep.
Otherwise, he should be in jail. Like, leave him alone. You're pulling him over for no reason. And can you imagine countless of Philando Castiles out there that are not dead, but
Right.
you just destroyed their lives for no reason.
Right. Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, thankfully people who are not black and of color, I think, are starting to understand that these traffic stops are life or death. They're always life or death. So every time a police officer pulls me over, it's a life or death situation. This was the case before Trayvon Martin, before Eric Garner. Like this was just a fact that okay, this person's pulling me over. I need to do everything I can to make sure that I stay alive. Whereas there are other people who apparently that wasn't the case, and that kind of blows my mind. But but I don't think they understood the urgency of this phenomenon that happens to black people. Um, and Yeah, I think we should do something to limit the number of interactions that people have with officers. It's because it really, like, I would never call the police, like, unless someone was like murdered in my house, and I would call them afterward. But I can't imagine a situation where I'm going to bring a police officer into a situation. I mean, they're my very, very, very last resort. I don't even think of them as an option, to be honest. And this was always the case. My experience with police officers was always just to ignore them, to just try to stay away from them. And when they're in my presence, get away from them as soon as possible. This hero worship of police officers, and I love them, and they're there to protect me, and I can't wait to call them up to do X, Y, and Z. I actually have a story. I remember one time I was going to a comedy open mic, and it was closed, and they closed it last minute, and I didn't realize this. So then I had to take an Uber back home, and I remember this guy. I got in this Uber with this guy, and this guy, I think he was like a white guy. He might have been Middle Eastern. He had an accent. He was a recent immigrant though, and he was driving me in the Uber, and like he took a wrong turn or something on the highway, and at some point we had to like get in the shoulder and like back up on the highway because he missed a turn because we were about to go to New Jersey and not to my home. And I was like, what the fuck? This dude is getting maybe 0.1 star. Like this is a terrible experience. And I was annoyed, but like I was like, whatever, just get me home. I don't care that badly. But then the problem was while he was doing that, a police officer saw him. So then the police officer came up to him and kind of pulled him over. And I'm in the Uber, and I'm kind of freaking out because I'm just like, if I die because this guy missed a turn, I was like, this motherfucker, like this has nothing to do with me, and now he's putting my life in danger because his dumbass missed the fucking exit, and now I might die. And an Uber, like, and these are real thoughts that are going through my mind. I'm just trying to just sit as still as possible. You can tell the cop's kind of annoyed with him because like the guy doesn't speak English well, and the cop's getting a little like aggravated about that. Yeah. And so I'm like, dude, just fucking, I'm not saying shit. I'm like, I'm not moving because it's like, I don't want to be around a cop ever. You know, I really don't. I don't want to be in that situation. So, you know, for me, it was just like, how do I felt helpless because I didn't put us in that situation, and it wasn't really up to me to get us out of it. And it was like, you can't do that. You can't put me in that situation. So he got like no stars. I don't even think, I think if there was a way to give 0 stars, I gave 0 stars. This is terrible. But but that was, you know, what, in 2019? You know what I mean? Like this is a current feeling. And it's not just because what's been happening in the news. Like, you know, I could tell you stories about before Trayvon Martin and all that stuff. You know?
Yeah, man. It's deep seated, man. It's
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like I don't even know what to say because you know I don't ever want to be around the police like that uniform. Forget it. Like I don't like you know I don't ever want to be around.
I never saw them as it's funny to hear what people think of police officers as like white people. They'll be like, you know, they think of them as, you know, that's who you call when you're in danger. And it's like, really? That's who you call? Like they're Ghostbusters or some shit. I'm like, no, they're not. I mean, look, I don't have anything against an individual police officer. I don't care. Like if you're a police officer, I don't hate you as a person. I don't like the system of policing.
Institution.
It's the institution. But if you're a police officer, I know cops. I have friends who are cops. I'm fine with you as an individual. And people are like, oh, well, you know, not all cops are bad and blah, blah, blah. I don't think there's such thing as a good or a bad cop. I think there's an issue with the system. And I think there's an issue with it institutionally. And I think that because the system allows any officer to get away with certain things, that on any given day, any officer, I don't care who they are, man, woman, gay, straight, trans, whatever, any officer can shoot me and then get acquitted or not even get indicted. It's the system, because you could have a quote unquote good officer, and that good officer on one day could shoot someone. I'm sure that all these people who we see in the news, who recently shot these people, they were all good officers. You know, the woman who shot Dante Wright or the guy who shot Adam Toledo. If they never did anything before that, for all you know, they're the good ones. Are they? It's not about being a good or a bad person. It's about the system is fucked up. You know what I mean? Like I don't care if you're a good dad or if you go to church or I, I don't give a fuck who you are as a person. I'm talking about the system that what you're allowed to do. Because you're a human being. You're gonna make mistakes, but if you're not even gonna be prosecuted because of it, then you're a danger.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've always said about, for me, I even take it a step further. Like I don't see, you know, like if you're gonna say good or bad, I'm gonna say no, you're not good.
Mm-hmm.
Because because we see, how many times do you see individual police officers protecting bad behavior?
Yeah.
Like how many times?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
don't. I mean,
like
it's ridiculous. Yeah. If you
so
don't say, yeah.
yeah, like I can't remember. I mean, of course, these days we see some police chiefs that start repudiating some of the actions of these folks. I think it's more, and I think that happens more because politically it just become untenable, right? Like, to
Mm-hmm.
not to just pretend like, but still you see the rank and file police officers, the folks that are in the streets and whatnot. If you go on their social media pages, or they are saying vile shit. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when I say they, I'm not saying 100% of them. I'm sure you find individuals that are like, this is crazy. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
can't. But the majority of what we see out there, I mean, if we're going to have a society that anytime there is a shooting and that person's has a Muslim last name, you're going to tar your religion. Well, anytime there is a shooting by a
Mm-hmm.
police officer, I mean, what is good for the geese is good for the gander. You know
Yeah.
what they say?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like no, but we
Yeah.
have this ridiculous double standard where I just don't get it. Like, and I don't want to make this overly political. You have conservatives, right? A big part of being a conservative is being anti-big government,
Mm-hmm.
unless it is the police. Like I don't
Right.
understand that part. The
Unless
people,
the police kill you, that's cool. But
but
don't
that's the
mess with my
thing.
taxes. But if police kill people, that's fine.
But that's the thing. They don't think the police will kill them.
Right.
They don't care about the people that police officers kill. So they
Yeah.
think their assumption is, if the police kills you, you must have had that coming. Like
Right.
you're up to no good. Like that's, you must have done something wrong, and therefore you deserve this. These are just extrajudicial killings. This is extrajudicial killings. Vigilantism, like we have like people just getting shot by government officials in the street, and we are sanctioning it. We can ask, like, this is what happened. I mean, I grew up in a military regime. I don't even think they were this bad.
Mm. Damn. Yeah.
Like,
You should say that on national television. I think a lot of people be like, damn.
no,
Yeah.
I don't think they were this bad. Where you will have the whole infrastructure of the government supporting this stuff, and it is so difficult to change anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what
No,
the fuck is going on?
it's
Like,
wild. And it's I mean, police violence, I mean, there's definitely a racial component to it. But I mean, I've seen shootings against white people that infuriate me, and it's awful. And it's like, and actually there was a recent shooting of a 16-year-old white kid. So like this week, it was a black kid, Dante Wright, a white kid, I can't remember his name, 16-year-old, and a 13-year-old Latino kid in Chicago. So this is something that you have this precedent where it can affect anyone. I mean, one of the worst shootings I've ever seen that infuriates me to this day is Daniel Shaver in gosh,
in,
I'm
Ar-
blanking on.
in, Ar-
Well,
in
I think it was
Ar-
in Arizona.
Arizona,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was in
that
Arizona.
was haunting, man.
That was
That was
horrible. It was a horrible, horrible shooting where I cannot believe the officer was acquitted. That I think may have, yeah, that might have been like the worst one I've seen. I mean, it's with that and Philando Castile, like those were just horrible. But uh, this, you basically had a guy who was wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt in a hotel and was like on his knees
He
doing
was
exactly what
begging.
the begging for the officer not to shoot him. And I think at one point he was trying to pull up his basketball shorts, not big baggy cargo pants that could hold anything. Basketball shorts. I don't even think he had shoes on. I mean, this like what you would wear, when you're about to go to bed. And he moved for a second, and they shot him and killed him. And the officer was acquitted. And if any listeners out there, if you haven't seen it,
Don't watch it.
don't look at the video. But I'm saying like maybe Wikipedia. I mean, it was awful. Um,
Look, man, this may sound crazy, but I feel like, you know, more and more, unfortunately, it is there. Well, unfortunately, I mean, as you said, more and more white folks are gonna start becoming victims to this,
mhm.
and I feel like that's probably when things will start changing.
Yeah, I
Because
mean it's
when,
unfortunate, but that's how it always happens.
yeah,
It's like yeah,
yeah, like when you have white folks now feeling like, okay, this could happen to my son, my husband, my dad, or whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's when, because now, black folks, we've been dehumanized, and and it's
yep.
just, yeah, and we don't even know it. Like, I mean, we've been so dehumanized that,
And
yeah,
it doesn't matter like what black person you are. Like you always do that thing in the news where, the black person who was shot or beat up or whatever, they always have to tell you their whole resume and like whether or not they deserve to die. Did they go to church? Were they a college graduate? Did they smoke weed? Did they have a family? Blah, like all that shit. Like they're, being sworn in to be a justice for the Supreme Court. Like we have to dig into all that stuff.
yeah,
Um, and but even the guy who was pepper sprayed by the officers, and I'm blanking on his name. He was black, half Latino. Did you see that? He was like a lieutenant, and
yeah.
they pulled him over. I mean, it's just like, I mean, he's a lieutenant. I mean, he's a fucking in his uniform. Like, what?
What did they pull him over for?
Something stupid. Oh, because he just got a brand new car, and you know how like you don't have the license plate yet, so you just have like the tag or whatever, like the paper tag
Hmm.
on the back. So he had it, and it was like stapled to the back of his back rear, his window, his back window, and I guess maybe it was slightly tinted or something. You could still see it, but it was just enough for them to then pull him over. So they pulled him over near I think it was dark where they pulled him over. It was at night. And so he slowly drove to like a lit area, as is a normal, reasonable thing to do. He drove into like the closest gas station. So it was a lit area. By the way, anyone listening, you should always do that. Never just let cops pull you over in the middle of the night. That's reasonable. I mean, drive slowly, put your blinker on, let them know that's what you're doing. But I've done that before where I'd have to go to a more lit area.
And why isn't that even a thing that a cop should know, that somebody, like for instance, if somebody slows down and they're
Hmm.
driving slowly, okay, if you're a cop, you should automatically kind of like understand that, okay, maybe he's driving to a lit area.
Right.
That shouldn't be a thing
Right. I mean, that's
that
such a
you can,
normal thing. It's him trying to protect the
both
driver
of you.
trying to protect themselves. He's also trying to protect the officers. Like, do you really want to be? First of all, do you really want to pull someone over on the side of a highway as opposed to just in a Wawa parking lot? I'd rather do it in the Wawa parking lot, because it's more safe for you as the officer. But anyway, so they pull him over or whatever. And honestly, I don't know why I think that's why it became confrontational, because he was driving slow or something, and I don't even remember. But obviously, you know, he didn't. All of a sudden, they're screaming at him and telling him to get out of the car, and so the guy has his hands in the air and he's asking the officers, why are you doing this? What is going on? And and then the officers at that point they just get irate, and at some point, they pepper spray him and all this stuff, and once it's all done, they like basically tell him like, uh, please don't please don't tell on us, basically, like please don't press charges. Once they realize, the kind of colossal mistake they made, and that he had nothing, he wasn't doing anything. I think it's even on tape them asking him like not to press charges or something. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Fuck those people. Just sorry for getting on this for so long. I know you're trying to stay away from all this shit in the news. The funny thing is I wasn't even really looking it up that much. It just kind of jumps out at you.
It's all good. I mean, one of the things that I'm also trying to do is to write more,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just write about happiness.
I mean, you're feeling happy, so
It's
write about that.
I'm actually yeah, just write about my own experience with trying to get to a place of constant happiness. So maybe people would find whoever comes across reads them
Mm-hmm.
may find them useful in some way or form. But yeah, it's not me trying to advise people, but more like my own experiences and
Are
yeah.
you doing this on Medium?
No, I'm actually doing this on Substack. So
Oh yeah, you did
Sub
mention
yeah, Substack is medium-ish, but yeah, I guess it will be a competitor. I can see why I can post it on Medium as well, but yeah, I'll probably post something this week. Yeah, for folks that are listening, the Substack page is be happy at substack.com. So that's my
Be happy at substack.com. Yeah,
I
that's
mean be happy.substack.com. So
be
basically,
happy.substack.com. Okay.
yeah. So I have that page.
Okay. That's that's good. Yeah, I want to. You know what I realized? Speaking of like therapy and stuff, and getting your thoughts out, I realized comedy's been. People always joke and say, "Oh, people use comedy as therapy," but I do think it has helped me a little bit because I'm constantly writing down my thoughts. Not every thought, because not every thought I have is funny, but I am like I'm in the process of kind of expressing myself every day. And I wasn't always doing that. And I think that's been helpful. Um,
I'm pretty sure it is, man. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
But I would like to write more too. Like I mean that is writing, but it's a specific kind of writing. But there was a point where I did this thing where I wrote 100 words and published them on Medium for 100 days, and that was pretty cool actually, to do that.
So one of the things that I actually also want to do with my Substack page is to also have guest writers, and for them to just friends, whoever, people that I know, to just write about whatever makes them happy. Like just to get more positive things out there. So maybe that's my little project, if you will. So maybe I'll probably be reaching out to.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Y-
Um, huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, check it out if you're listening. Go to behappy.substack.com. Um,
yeah.
uh,
Well,
yeah.
so yeah, I will have another post up this week, but I think I only have one, um, basically an introductory post on, and my goal is to probably post weekly/bi-weekly.
Okay.
So so yeah. Um,
Nice. Good stuff. You have anything else you want to tell the
not,
people, I guess?
be happy.
Yeah, I mean, UBI is basically It's UBI, but said with a certain inflection, it's basically happy. Um, that could be one of the many uses of the term, but you know,
Exactly.
y'all,
That's one of the many uses. So on that note,
yeah, y'all be all right.
you'll be all right.